Welcome to Outreach Connection, focusing on topics and issues that reach our communities with the love and the power of Jesus Christ.
Hello and welcome to Outreach Connection. My name is Timothy Southers and I serve as your host. And I'm really excited today to get the opportunity to talk to Pastor Oscar Twikala, who's from Jacksonville, Illinois area, and get a chance to talk to him about his new book that is coming out that is called Alone Yet Not Alone. Before we get a chance to talk to him, I want to go over our theme verse of the show, which comes out of Mark chapter 16, verse 15. And he said unto them, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature." Pastor Twikala, I want to make sure I say that name right. I'm so glad that you're here.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Oh man, we're excited to talk about this second book. I know you have your first book was called Finding Your Identity, and now you're here on your second book, which is Alone Yet Not Alone. And you already told me that your third book is going to be coming out soon, and I don't want to jump the gun.
Actually, this is book
number
number 3.
Right, that's right.
The second one was on hold for a little while.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what an appropriate book. This book, Alone Yet Not Alone, Discovering God's Healing Presence in whatever struggle you face. What an appropriate book for the time that we are in, being in involved in this pandemic, and people having to be isolated from one another and things of nature. So I'm really excited to get into this book. But tell people a little bit about your background, where you come from, and how you got here.
Well, I'm from the Republic Democratic of Congo, DRC. Okay. I've been in the United States for 6 years now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Awesome. And you lead a church called the Gathering of the Firstborn in Jacksonville, Illinois. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You also have another one in California.
I'm leading a ministry called Army of Christ, in California.
Awesome. Well, this book, I've got a chance to look at this book and still working through the book, and it's really a great read, easy read. I think you do a really good job of allowing people to be able to connect with you within this book, which is really good. Talk a little bit about the inspiration for this book.
Well, it was during a very difficult time of my life. Very, I shouldn't say dark, but it was very, very difficult. It didn't happen to everyone, especially for those in the ministry. You can be doing a very awesome job. God is using you, It was the same thing for me. I was traveling a lot, preaching here and there. God was using me a lot, but at the same time, I found myself in a position that, I started feeling, such a emptiness in my heart, and I try to connect with people that I look up to. I'll call them on the phone, and they'll minister to me. But all I hear is gibberish. I mean, they'll tell me things, but it won't find a place. It's not that they're not doing a good job, but it's just that my heart wasn't there, my mind wasn't there. But later on, I did understand that this was God, creation. God created that moment just to lead me to a place that He can speak to my heart. So I remember one night when the day that the inspiration come about, I was just in my living room sitting, and I called people, nothing worked. I'm like, okay, let me just go out and run and just trying to clean up my mind. So as I was running, God started talking to me. I was just observing the stars, and the Lord told me, "Hey, Oscar, if you want to talk to me, I have eternity to listen to you." With people on the phone, you'll call them. Maybe it will be 30 minutes, or maybe an hour if they really love you. Yeah. But then they'll have to go. Then the Lord, at that moment, start talking to me, and it's like, if you want to talk to me, talk to me. So I start talking to the Lord, and for that day I felt I have someone who will listen to me and who will speak to me, and so that's how the inspiration come. And He told me, go and tell people the experience that you had with me. So that's how I wrote this book.
Wow, that's amazing. One of the things that the theme in this book early on, you talk about fear, and talk a little bit about that and how fear is a part of the book. And
well, fear itself is a very dangerous, enemy. It stops you to see the future. And in the book, I talk about the story of this guy. He had a fear at every step of his life. So when he was still in primary school, he'd start thinking, am I ever going to make it in high school, and he went to high school, start worrying about college, went to college, start worrying about, am I going to finish college, am I going to get a job, got a job, start, having a fear of never get married. He got married, he had a fear that his wife will leave him, then he's like, are we going to have, then they have kids, start having a fear of losing his kids, or, maybe my kids are not going to see me when I grew up, and then, have a fear of losing his job. Even when the man died, still fearing of, is my children, are they going to have the heritage of my life? So fear, it's a very, very dangerous thing that we need to treat seriously. Even Jesus did mention that in Matthew chapter 6. He said, do not worry about anything, worry about today, and tomorrow will take care of itself. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 54, the Bible says that we need to rebuke fear.
Yes.
So it's something that we need to deal with seriously.
That's right. That's right. It's just interesting how fear is a learned process. I have, 2 babies at home. One is just, about almost, 14 months. The other one is going on about to be, just had her 3rd birthday. And early on, kids don't have fear. They don't understand fear. One just walks and does whatever and falls and everything. That's really learned. Fear is learned. And if we can learn something, we can also unlearn it. And I think that's so important that you understand that, that fear. I know somebody one time gave an acronym of fear is false evidence appearing real. And just things that we have to unlearn. I think this book really gets into that whole idea of overcoming that fear. And really fear, it stymies us. It doesn't allow us to move forward in a positive way. So I really thought that was good that you got to that. One of the second things you talked about in the book was listening during these times of loneliness. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, listening has always been a struggle for a human being, and look at it this way. The reason why a lot of couples don't stand for a long time is, listening. They don't listen to each other, and they pay someone to listen to them. And in this book, I said, if you can listen, then I can certify you to be a psychiatrist, because we pay them to listen, but we don't listen. We always jump into conclusion. When a husband will come and want to tell his wife something, she's not even going to listen. She will jump in and start, telling him, what he needs to know. But sometimes in a conflict, or sometimes when someone is struggling, is going through a lot, all they want is just you to listen. They don't want your opinion. And a great experience that I had recently was with a friend of mine. She finished college. She's a nurse, but then she had to do the board exam. She failed that exam for the first time. Then during that time, I was there to encourage her, to be with her. She would talk to me for hours. She would complain. She would cry. I won't say a word. I would just listen, and she would hang up. She would call me again. It would be the same thing, and it went over for a week. Then I'm like, well, I need to talk to her now, because this is time. One day she called me. I'm like, you know what? You're getting burned out. If you keep complaining, that will destroy you. She just got mad. She got mad, and it went, things went south. And from that day, I understood that she didn't want my opinion. She just wanted somebody to listen to her. That's the big struggle living with family. Parents, they don't listen to the kids. They just want for father or mother to listen to the heart without telling them. Back in the days for us, it used to be this. I used to be a teenager. Well, that was your time. This is a different time with different challenges, and
Remember the stories that Mama used to give us about walking to school, back and forth all the time. And they're like, this is not the same thing you're going through now. But I think you bring on a great point of sometimes there's a difference between hearing someone and listening to someone, which is totally different. I mean, if you have ears, you can hear, right? If they're working. But to really listen is to really to put aside what you're thinking.
Listening is a deep job.
It really is.
You really have to hear not what comes out of someone's mouth, but to hear his heart, what is stemming from what they're going through, and it's a deep job.
That's powerful. Hearing someone's heart. That is, and that's really the concept of that. Next one, chapter 3, you talk a little bit about pain. Talk to us about that. Overcoming that pain.
Well, a lot of people, most of the time we all go through tough time, whether it's injustice or whether it's being abused or but now, if I have to be quite frankly with myself, I was going through a time that people may say things that aren't true, about you, and but God will allow that sometime in order to in order to use your life as a testimony somehow. And there's a poem that I wrote in that in the book. It goes, although the pain that I can't describe, but I will test it so that I can testify. Sometime people, when they say wrong things about you, or they accuse you falsely, and all those kind of stuff, sometime God will use that. He use our pain in order to give a testimony. Especially, same thing with Jesus Christ. Today we all followers of Jesus Christ, but the story of our Lord came through pain. Wow. Being betrayed by friends, and being accused falsely. But now today we use it as today it's our heritage. So pain, we don't like it at first, but something good can come out of it.
Most definitely.
Just look at it like a woman giving birth. That's a very terrible experience. I mean, I can only imagine.
Right.
I can only imagine, but they, and this is from stories that I've heard from different women. I'm not, I'm just, with all the respect, it's just what I've heard from different women.
Right.
You heard that they want to punch their husband, they'll push nurse, and they'll scream, they'll say things that they don't even think about.
Right.
But at the end, when they see that baby,
there's joy.
They forgot about the pain. So that's kind of different things that I talk about in that chapter.
And it has to be, and interesting you talk about birth, and that pain and travail of of experience and of birthing and going through the pushing and the getting the baby to come forth, but then the love that comes after.
Yes.
That will get somebody to be able to say, I want to get pregnant again. I want to go through that. But no, do you remember the pain? No, I remember the joy. The joy overcomes that pain.
Amen.
And I think that is important that we deal with that pain in our lives. And I know I've heard people say, and I really do believe that hurt people hurt people. You see people who are putting in and have pain, put other people in pain. But when you deal with that pain in your life, I think that's so important that you talk about in your book. It helps you to overcoming your pain, helps you to not be that way and mean-spirited to other people as well. So I think that was a great point you brought up in the book as well. One of the things you talk about is as many people around, yet alone. That's a great analogy you used there. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, earlier I did mention that there was a time, during my ministry, God will use me a lot, and not only me, but you see that with a lot of people that have famous, people that travel a lot and do a lot of stuff. But the reality is that, they have people around them, but deep inside in the heart there's something missing. You may be you may be in a big family, but still feel lonely. Myself, I was in a big family, but there were time in my life, especially, and I did talk about it in my first book, Finding Your Identity, as a child, I was in a family of a lot of children, but still feel alone. It's just that connection. If there's not someone that you can connect with, deeply level, you're still going to feel that. And you can be in marriage. Some people, they will be like envying those that are, married, and they will say, I want that. But you see someone else in marriage, but they still feel alone. So it's about, a real connection, and the real connection can only be done through Christ.
Yeah. I think one of the things in this book that you talk about is that whether you're introverted or extroverted, that doesn't matter. Loneliness can come in any of those. The loneliness and being alone. Talk a little bit to that.
Well, I remember being, a child. Sometime when my brothers, growing up with brothers, how it is like. Sometimes my brothers will, hurt me, and I'll go to my father and tell him, "Hey, my brother did this to me," and did that to me, and my father will tell me, "Well, also if you tell in your corner, nobody will come and bother." So that's how I kind of developed that, introverted part of me. I'll be sitting by myself for hours, and doesn't bother me. I'm the type of a person that, on Thanksgiving I can be by myself. On Christmas I can be by myself, but I'm fine. But a lot of time people worried and say, "Hey, it's Christmas, are you just by yourself?" They worry, but I am just fine. But I can also, but it became bad as start growing up. I didn't connect well with the outside world. Not well enough. So, I start forcing myself to be out there, because if you just stay in your own bubble, there'll be a lot of things that you miss out there.
Yeah.
So, I learned how to be, extroverted. So today I enjoy both worlds. I can be by myself, I'm fine. I can be with people, and I'm fine. But it's just that balance, and most of the time it's a conflict maybe in the marriage, not understanding that, this person maybe want a moment for himself, especially, an introverted person. If you understand that person is that way, maybe in the morning they just want to be by themselves, drinking the coffee, enjoying that time. But sometime in marriage, if someone doesn't understand, they'll just come in your time. We all want that time.
That's true.
Anyone need a time that they can, a time of, refreshment, restoration. It doesn't have to be all day, but at least, just for a while, and understand that someone needs a time for himself.
Most definitely. And it sounds like a theme throughout the book a big theme is communication, letting people know, and communicating with people what you're going through, and that's sometimes can be huge. I know with me, I'm kind of a consistent with my personality, attitude, things of nature, but everybody has some inconsistencies, but I'm pretty consistent. I'm not necessarily a morning person, afternoon person, evening person. I'm pretty much all the time person, but I'm around people who aren't very, morning people. Like, I used to get up and be like, "Hey, what's going on?" Or they wouldn't speak to me, and I would get upset or angry. You're like, well, hold on. That person has a way they deal with things and how they operate. So just be okay with that. Be okay with maybe you say hello to them, maybe you don't. It doesn't take away from your relationship, which I think is a big theme and thing to think about when you're talking about the book. But that introvert extrovert I thought was very, very poignant in the book. One of the things that you can talk to a little bit too is who this book is for. I think that's very interesting as well, because when you look at the book, is it for somebody who's single? Is it somebody who's in a relationship, married? Who do you think the book is for?
Well, I think anybody can connect to this book, whether you're single, whether you are, in a couple, because, in a couple, we know a very interesting or important thing there is, communication, but not only for the couple, but for all type of relationship, to a father to a son, to a mother to his daughter, or to a husband to the wife, or even with your boss. So I believe that is something that is important to all. I mean, I'm a pastor, but I also work. I work with people. So and especially at this time. People are experiencing loneliness, depression. So I believe that this book is also for that type of person. I mean, someone who's all the time struggling with depression, struggling with with fear or pain. So I mean, anyone can connect to this book, really.
Wow. Yeah, I totally agree. I haven't looked at the book that it's for everyone. It really is, and the fact that you are transparent in the book, I think, is great. The stories you use, the different people's testimonies that you use in the book, I think is amazing as well. I talked to you a little bit earlier. I think everyone has a book in them, and but the idea of getting that book out so the world can be a part of your legacy to the world. Talk to us just about the importance you believe that is and has been for you.
Well, we all have a story, and I did say that in my first book, Finding Your Identity. Everyone has a story, but sometimes it's just the way to, some people that don't feel comfortable sharing the testimony, but it is important. The Bible says that we have conquered because of the blood of the Lamb, but also because of the word of our testimony. So the testimony, it's a very key part in our lives as Christian. So I believe that an experience, maybe you have someone who has been raped, someone who has been abused, or any experience that we go through, God allowing that, it's just that, so that it can be a testimony and bring other people out of that situation. Yeah.
That's powerful. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about the book is that it is not too high in the clouds. Like, you don't use a whole bunch of big words where you can't understand it, but at the same time, it's a book that you can connect to, and a book that really hits some things: fear, pain, listening, dealing with loneliness and being alone, understanding, whether you're extrovert, introvert, and how you can work through those things. There's so many great things within this book. So I think that someone would pick up this book and go away, feeling some bit of therapy in and of itself. It's a therapeutic book. Do you agree with that?
I do agree, and trust me, simplicity in a word, it's always important. Right. Jesus is the greatest teacher ever.
Yes.
But when he teach, he use Jesus was simple.
Very true.
When he will go deep, he will do it on purpose. But on the side, he'll call the disciple and break it down.
Right.
So I believe that the message is it's important to be simple, direct, and not confuse people with a lot of theory, but just be honest and talk about life. And in this book, that's what I did. I talk about life, and I was honest and transparent. And I believe that if you share your heart, people can connect easily to that. But if you're coming up with theory, we have a lot of smart people out there. I'm not going to play with that.
That's very true. That's very true. And I think that book, hits perfectly on that, and the whole idea of simplicity. But at the same time, like you said, it gets you to the point where you're able to say, there's nothing to argue here.
Yes.
It's the idea of this is something that we're dealing with. We all deal with fear, pain. Listening to understand, listening to someone's heart versus just listening to what they're saying and getting ready to come right back at them with something else, as if it's almost like it's a verbal ping pong. I just think that's really an interesting point of this book, is that it is simple. It's simple, but it's simple truths are the best truths, and that's how Jesus taught as well. Not a lot of theology. It's not about theology. It's about those things, those simple points of interest that are in this book that I think makes this book so wonderful. So there's opportunity for people to get the book. We'll talk about at the end about how people can purchase the book. But I know there may be someone who's watching who may say, this book is something I might be interested in. Not only purchasing the book, but this Jesus that you're talking about, I may be interested in that. So just give a message to the people who may not know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, and give them opportunity to make him their Lord and Savior.
Absolutely. I want to talk directly to your heart. You may be going through a very difficult time. Maybe you lost a husband, a friend, someone that you care about. Maybe you're trying to connect with the world, but you feel so empty inside. You have tried so many things. You have tried to connect with money. You have tried to connect with different relationships, and nothing worked. Maybe you lost a husband or you lost a wife. Maybe it's a loss of your kids. They're there, but you never feel like they're there. You lost. I want to give you what works for me. I've experienced the same thing, maybe in a different level. I know what it feels like to lose a mother. I know how it feels like to lose a father. I know what pains taste like, but I also know how healing comes. And in my life, it came through Jesus Christ. I want to lead you to try what I've tried. You have tried everything. Would you try this today and give your heart to Jesus Christ? Would you just allow him to come in and say, Lord Jesus Christ, I give you my heart. I give you my mind. I give you my soul. I give you all I have. Would you take control of my family? Take control of my marriage? Father, I just want to pray for someone who's watching right now, for this marriage that is about to break up. I pray that you intervene. I pray that you do what their friends couldn't do. I pray that you do what counsels are not able to do, Father. I just pray that you give to this person what money cannot give, Father, what college degrees cannot give. I pray that you give, Father, to this person watching, to these brothers, to this sister. I pray that you give what only you, Jesus Christ, can give. Holy Spirit, bring your healing. Bring your deliverance. This is my prayer, Father, that my brother, my sister will never feel lonely again. Father, thank you for coming to their heart right now. Thank you for healing their pain. We thank you, Lord Jesus Christ. I pray from now on that they'll walk with you, that you take control of their family, that you take control of their health. Father, I thank you. If you don't have it, you never heard about Jesus Christ, you just heard it today. I'm sure you can try to connect with people from this show or find a local church. I'm sure there are good men of God that can lead you and allow you to grow in Jesus Christ. God bless you.
Bless you. Thank you so much, Pastor Oscar Twikala. Make sure you're saying your name, Twikala.
Yes.
I think that you have a wonderful messages in your books. This second book that you released into the atmosphere,
yes.
From Finding Your Identity was the first one, Alone Yet Not Alone, Discovering God's Healing Presence in Whatever Struggle You Face. I think this is an outstanding book. So I encourage you, there's opportunity for information for you to connect with the book and how you can get the book. Go on Amazon.com and you can order the book. This is a book that you need in your library. I promise you do. It'll be a book that is an easy read. I think it's 60 plus pages, 63 pages I think total, but it's a book that you won't be able to put down. It's a great book, and it comes from the heart of someone who you can tell has walked with God. And that's all we can ever ask for, is to be able to experience things that people who have experienced God is able to share with us. So we want to thank you so much for joining us today. Here at Outreach Connection. We don't take for granted that you join us on the show and you let us come into your living rooms and have an opportunity to share with you what God is doing in this tri-state area. And I have an opportunity today to talk to an outstanding author and Pastor Twikala. We really appreciate him coming and being a part of that. So thank you so much for joining us. God bless you.
Contact us at Outreach Connection, WTJR 222 North 6th Street, Quincy, Illinois 62301.